Good evening. My name is Megan and I love making sourdough and I love helping people learn how to successfully make sourdough. So I'm here tonight to show you how to efficiently make your starter for the loaves that you're wanting to make. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna actually show you what I do. And before I get started in doing that, you might want to take notes because I'm going to explain my method. And I know that you can find a lot of different methods out there, but I like the specific nature of measuring in grams. So make sure that you have a kitchen scale that is in grams, because that is something that is, like, for me, super critical when measuring out my flour to water to starter ratio. Okay, so I like to do, instead of saying, there are some people that like to use measuring cups. I don't do that. I do ratios. And so when you're dealing with a mother, so for example, this is my mother. I don't have a lot in here and you'll be surprised at what I can develop her into. I will keep some mother in my fridge after what I show you, and I'll have enough to make 2 loaves. So you don't have to hoard your mother. You don't have to make her super big. You're just gonna be eating a lot of flour. So what you can do, and I'll explain my actual numbers, but you don't, just know that you don't have to keep a lot of her, okay? The mother is what you use to create your starter. Your starter is what you use to bake bread with, okay? So I always take from my mother and I empty her into a clean jar to see where I'm at, what number am I at. And today I'm actually at a 25 grams is what I have. So I need to, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take 10 grams of her and I'm going to put her in a new jar. I'm gonna clear out my scale, so I'm gonna zero it out so I know exactly how much flour I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do the same amount. So I'm gonna do a 1-1-1 ratio. Equal parts is basically what that is. Equal parts mother, flour, warm water. So I'm going to do 10 grams of mother, 10 grams of bread flour, and 10 grams of warm water. Okay, so that's how I'm going to keep enough mother. I personally like to leave her on the counter until she gets all active and bubbly, and then I just stick her in the fridge because I don't need her until I need to make new loaves, okay? So because I have 25 to begin with, and I'm trying, and I put 10 away, I have what left? I have 15 grams left. I'm going to take that 15 grams and I'm going to make it, because my personal recipe that I use for sourdough calls for 50 grams of starter per loaf. So there's kind of a math method here. And so what I'm gonna do is, for my starter, I'm going to take 15 grams of what's left of my mother, right? And I'm going to do a 1-to-2-to-2 ratio. So I'm gonna double. So I'm gonna do 15 grams mother, 30 grams bread flour, 30 grams warm water. That's a 1-to-2 ratio, okay? Because I'm trying to make 2 loaves tonight, I'm gonna have to make a little bit more. So I'm actually gonna do a 1-4-4 ratio. Now don't glaze over, don't get all confused. It's just very basic. You can go from a 1-1-1 ratio all the way up to like a 1-5-5 ratio. And I know people who've actually done more. It's a matter of how much starter you have and where you need to go. So it's an equation. So right now I have 15 grams starter and I'm trying to get to at least 100 grams of starter for my 2 loaves, because 1 loaf is what? 50 grams. So 50 plus 50 for 2 loaves is 100 grams. And I like to kind of go over that number a little bit, just so I have a little wiggle room, because sometimes you can't get everything out of your jar. So if you go over that number just slightly, it'll give you room and you're not having to scrape so much, and you can have a little bit left over and you can either toss it or you can put it in a separate discard jar. And there are specific recipes for just discard. And I'm not going to go into that tonight, and I can actually do another video, but that's not why I'm here tonight. Tonight I'm going to show you exactly how I do my starters and how I separate my mother from my starter. So, are you ready? Here we go. Okay, so this is my mother. I already measured her out, so I know I have 25 grams of her. So, what I'm gonna do, so I need to clear this out, you're gonna zero it out. You can see this number, so now it's 0. Remember, this is gonna be for my mother. I'm gonna only put 10 grams in there. Don't need a lot. Perfect. Okay, now you're gonna take some warm water. Remember to zero it out. You're gonna take some warm water and you're gonna do equal parts. Remember, 1 to 1 to 1 ratio for this. So we're trying to get to 10. And it's okay if you go a little bit over. I'm not worried about it. And then you're gonna zero it out again. If my scale will cooperate. There we go. And then, let's see, clean this off. And now you're gonna do some flour. 10 grams. A little more. Perfect. Okay, she's done. I like to use a chopstick. For whatever reason, I feel like I can get it really good. Mix it all up. Get all off the sides. Okay, this is the consistency that you're looking for. It's not too thick. It's not too runny. It's like thick pancake batter. Okay, can you see that? Now, I do like to clean her off a little bit. So when she's gonna be stored, it's not super messy on the glass. I mean, it's not gonna be perfect. This is kind of a messy. It's always a little bit messy, okay? We're gonna set her aside. Now we're gonna do our starter. So I'm going to clear it out again. And it should be about what is left. Might not be exactly, but from my experience, sourdough is pretty forgiving. Look at that. Okay, perfect. So that's 15 grams. And now, remember, I'm not gonna do a 1 to 1 to 1 ratio like I did for my mother. I'm trying to make more because I need more for my loaves. My loaves for one loaf calls for 15 grams. So you have to do the math, or 50 grams, sorry, for one loaf. So how am I gonna get from 15 grams to 50? But remember, I'm making 2 loaves, so I'm gonna double it, okay? So if I were to just to make one loaf, I would probably just do a 1-to-2 ratio, but right now I'm doing a 1-4-4 because I need to double it, okay? So now I'm gonna take some warm water and I am going to make 60 grams of warm water because that is what's gonna get me to have enough for 2 loaves and a little wiggle room. When I do a 1-4-4 ratio, I'm gonna be at 135 and all I need is 100, so it'll be fine. I can have a little bit extra and it's no big deal. Perfect. Now I'm gonna take some of my bread or my flour. Now I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna do 60 grams. Perfect. Okay, now what do? I take my little chopstick and I mix it up. Okay, make sure you get off the sides. I like wide mouth jars because you're not having to deal with a little mouth and then you can't get to the bottom and get everything off the side. So get a wide mouth jar, which is basically talking about this part. You don't want it to be small. You want it to be the same as the bottom. You see that consistency? That's what I like. Okay, so then I'm just gonna take my spatula, a little baby spatula. I'm just gonna clean off the sides. And now I am going to take both of my jars, and I like to use, you do not want to seal this off with a lid. So I use something like this
just like a little plastic bag, because it has gas in there and it's going to start bubbling up. You don't want things to explode. So make sure you can even poke holes in here if you're worried about it, but I just use a little elastic band because gnats can sometimes be attracted to your starter, so you do want to cover it. I'm going to do the same thing for my mother. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where I'm at here. So when it doubles, I know that it is ready to go. I do wait until it is fully double. And I'm doing it tonight, so when I wake up tomorrow morning, it should be double. And I'm gonna do the same thing with her. I'm not as worried about my mother because I'm just gonna stick her in the fridge, but you can either just directly stick her in the fridge after this, or you can wait together until they both become active and bubbly, and then you stick her in the fridge and you bake with her.
Okay, so I hope that this helped you. Just so you know, you don't have to get a marker. You can get like a little hair tie or a rubber band to kind of measure where you began, and then that's how you will know when it is double. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, but it's very simple once you've got the method down. The method is just a ratio of 1, 1, 1, all the way up to either 1, 5, 5, depending on how much starter you begin with and how much you need. And you can figure out how many doubles or triples or quadruples you need of the starter, right? So like I said, I began with 15 grams of starter, but I needed to get to at least 100. And so I could have done a 1-3-3 ratio, but that would have just been barely over 100. And I like to give myself some wiggle room. So that's why I decided to just go one up more, 1-4-4, and I got to 135. All right, and then I can bake 2 loaves with this. I hope that helps.